To bush or not to bush? That is the question. Is there a right or wrong when it comes to body hairs, especially down there? That's what I want to talk about in today's video. But first, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Luciana and I have recently become a lady. But I'm not very ladylike. Here on this channel I like talking about womanhood topics and discuss some interesting things I see online. So make sure to subscribe if you want to hop on this unfiltered train of mine. So the other day I saw a video on YouTube from Isaac Butterfield where he was sharing how he thinks women with hairy armpits are disgusting.
Okay, I'm gonna freak everybody out. I'm gonna upset some people and I enjoy doing that. Female body hair is disgusting.
Which was really uncalled for, even if it was an experiment, as he claims. And all the trend on TikTok of women showing off their hairy armpits got me thinking about all the brainwashing years I've spent in Brazil. In case you didn't know, I grew up in Brazil. I'm from São José dos Campos, São Paulo, where the norm is to have no body hair at all. And those thoughts got me and my geeky soul interested in digging more about why people shave down there. Excuse me, Luciana. I can tell this is gonna be a crass video, so please give these unsuspecting viewers a disclaimer before proceeding. You're welcome. Fine. Disclaimer. As you can tell by the title and the intro of this video, I'm gonna talk about a topic that some viewers might find crude. So headphones are definitely recommended since TMI is my middle name, and I'm gonna talk about pubic hairs, female hygiene, and all of that. Is that better? Alright, let's proceed. First I want to talk about why we have bushes in our delicate parts, before talking about removing it or not. According to the research I've done, nobody fully understands why we have that much hair down there. When it comes to pubic hairs, humans are an anomaly among mammals. But here are some theories I found. It signals reproductive ability. Pubic hair appears at puberty. It's an obvious physical sign of sexual maturity, and consequently, one's ability to reproduce. In the past, it may have served as a visual cue for prospective mates. Which, now that you think about, it sounds very odd. I mean, biologically it makes sense. Once you start growing pubes and you have your period, you're technically, you can have a baby, you can reproduce. But that sounds very inappropriate, since women start having pubic hairs when they're teenagers. And I don't think none of them are sexually mature at that age. But pubic hair also serves a few important purposes, such as reducing friction in that area and trapping dirt and potentially harmful microorganisms that could enter our bodies. And those seem like important things. So why do we remove it? And when did it become a thing to have a hairless? I remember an episode of the second season of Outlander where Claire's friend Louise had her lady parts all groomed.
Et voilà pour les jambes. Bien. Madame est-elle prête pour la suite de la torture?
Une minute, vil monstre. Has no one told you? In Paris, a hairless mount is de rigueur.
And I was surprised to see that happening in the 18th century. But yeah, apparently trimming your bush has been around since ancient Rome and Egypt. Egyptian women considered pubic hair uncivilized. And by the early 1900s, upper and middle class white American women associated smooth skin with a desirable femininity. Additionally, 3 different industries played a role in encouraging women to remove body hairs in the early 1900s. First was the women's fashion industry, with more legs and arms being exposed with the garment changes of the time. Then came the men's hair removal industry, with Gillette seeing an opportunity to profit more by targeting women and selling even more razors. And lastly was the women's magazine industry. Harper's Bazaar was the first of the women's magazine to run a hair removal advertisement, pushing the idea that completely bare underarms was a necessity. Following those changes, which pushed leg and armpit hair removal, with the introduction of bikinis in the 1940s, women started removing their pubic hairs as well. Then, years later, the Brazilian wax came along and it got popular. Even Carrie Bradshaw got one in Sex and the City. So, this practice has been around for a long time, and most of us still do it to this day because we've been pushed to believe that being bare everywhere was more attractive and feminine. And I am one of those, influenced by those ideals. Now let me overshare how growing up hairless in Brazil was. Oh god, please don't. Like I said before, in Brazil, having no bush whatsoever is pretty much the norm, especially with how revealing Brazilian beachwear is. Or at least that's how it was back in my days, like 15 years ago. No matter which side you're on, okay, to bush or not to bush, you can't possibly think that showing your pubes in public is a good idea. Armpit hair? Sure, go crazy. Braid that shit, put some glitter on it, do whatever makes you happy. But when you start seeing pubes escaping the swimwear edges, I don't think other people need to see that. Finally, something we agree on.
The sun feels nice. Jesus, honey, wax much?
I started shaving my crotch and armpit areas when I was like 10, 11. Yeah, puberty hit early for me because I was at the pool 5 days a week doing swimming and synchronized swimming lessons. And it felt very awkward having, hairs showing up while I was attending the class. Even if obviously my swimsuit as a kid wasn't as revealing as the bikinis I used to wear as a young adult. But still, the hairs, they grow further than just the genital area. Even the armpits, like, it made me feel very self-conscious when I was hairy there, while everybody else wasn't. Especially because you know how teenagers are. And it was a mixed class with boys and girls. So, I jumped on the wagon and started shaving at a very early age. And as time went on and my sex life got started, shaving everything down there was a natural progression. Especially during my college years and while working at the cruise ships. Because, 18 to 22 was my crazy sex life period. And it felt very empowering to know that I could choose to have sex whenever I wanted, with whomever I wanted, because everything is smooth and ready to go down there. That's when I met Max at 22. On the cruise ships. And Max is also on board with the manscaping. He uses those trimming machines and it's fine by me. Because, I don't necessarily need him to be super smooth around his pickle and eggs. So, just trimming is fine. But I personally prefer to feel that smoothness, on myself during foreplay. I think it enhances the experience. But then again, to each one their own. Just remember to always do anything to your body because you want it, not because somebody else is forcing you to. But at some point I read somewhere that it's not healthy for women to shave everything down there. And if you still want to do some cleaning, just to groom the outer area, like the crotch, but still leave the lane covered, just to have a neat visual for your partner. So yeah, I read somewhere about that, and I'm gonna discuss more the cons of shaving later on in this video. But I never took that line of thought seriously and stopped completely shaving because I had lived pretty much my whole late teens and adult life hairless, and that had never caused any major inconvenience. Besides that slight discomfort when wearing tongs and tight jeans, and the occasional nip you give yourself when trying to shave while squatting. Shaving the corners is a challenge. And medically speaking, I never had loads of infections and unbalanced pH and all of those things that lack of pubic hairs can cause. So I was like, maybe I can just keep doing it. And I have been doing it. And I'm fine. So I guess it really depends on the person, their flora. And when you add to that the cultural factor that I explained, that I grew up seeing hairless bodies as more beautiful, clean, and convenient, you can understand why I don't really want to stop shaving my... Now, with all of that in mind, I want to finally start discussing the pros and cons of shaving your bush, to help you make a decision if you should go bald down there or not. The pros and cons I'm going to present are based on the studies I've read and also my own experience, which is quite extensive, I must say. I am a seasoned, unbushy person. Why do you have to be like this? Anyway, here are the cons of having hairless genitals. You are theoretically more susceptible to certain infections. As I mentioned before, pubic hair serves a protective function. Without it, you are theoretically more susceptible to certain infections, such as these. Although, on a side note, removing all hairs down there would make pubic lice homeless, which is a pro if you are suffering or have suffered in the past from those pesky little tenants. Increased friction in the area. Pubic hairs help reduce friction during sex and other activities. When you're all shaved up, you can actually feel that area where the stitches meet, and it's quite uncomfortable. That's why I love leggings. During sexual activity, friction occurs from skin-to-skin contact. Without pubic hair, there may be a higher likelihood for skin abrasion and injury. So now you know. Wear comfy underwears and use lube. Squat peeing in public can become wild when you're fully shaved. When peeing in public toilets without any hairs down there to guide the pee flow, there's a 50-50 chance it's gonna go well, or maybe the stream is gonna have a mind of its own and it's gonna splash everywhere and maybe leak down all the way to your legs. Which means if you're not wearing a skirt, your pants are now wet. I hate when I can't control the direction of my pee stream when I'm not sitting in the toilet, right? Obviously at home I don't have that issue. So yeah, squat peeing in public, it's always easier when you have a hairy bush. Lastly, let's talk about that itch that comes a few days later.
This Brazilian starting to itch. God damn.
A 2015 study found that more than 80% of groomers experience some form of genital itching. That dreaded crotch itch post-shaving could be a result of stubble or razor burns. So make sure to keep your skin moisturized and gently exfoliate the area post-shaving, to avoid the itch, or at least reduce it. Now let's talk about the pros of fully shaving. Being bare down there could make you smell better. Let me give you an armpit example to explain why. Removing your armpit hair can help reduce the odor caused by sweat. When you're sweating, the moisture stays in the area because the hair makes it harder for the sweat to evaporate or to get transferred to the clothes, hence making you smell bad quicker than if you were fully shaved. So just like with your armpits, shaving your south area could help keep you smelling fresh for longer. But it's important to make things clear because in a 2013 survey of 7,000 2,580 people, 55% of women and 61% of men who groomed their pubic hairs reported doing so for hygienic purposes. But having pubic hairs isn't unhygienic. It's natural. As long as you wash it frequently, it should be alright. But as I mentioned before, not having pubic hairs is a clear advantage in keeping you smelling fresher for longer. And we all appreciate good smelling genitals. Another pro is boosted self-esteem. One study associates total pubic hair removal with a more positive genital self-image in females. And another study shows that growing grooming may lead to boosted self-image in men. Again, the results of this study is probably because of the bias most of us grew up with. But you can't deny that changes takes time. And currently, a lot of people, associate shaved genitals with being more attractive and sexy. So, the study is just showing the facts from, their study. And the boosted self-esteem lead to the next pro, a more active sex life. Because when you feel comfortable with your body, then you're more open for playing. And having more sex comes with a shit ton of other health benefits. But I also want to point out that this point can also, apply to those with a hairy bush. Because you can also be super confident and sexually active with a big or trimmed bush. So this one applies to both sides. And lastly, in my opinion, a hairless kitty is more sensitive during foreplay. Like, you feel more the light touches, the area is more sensitive, which increases the pleasure because it's more fun, like you're feeling more things. In the end of the day, people have different preferences. Some like a hairy kitty, others prefer when it's all shaved.
The night is young, and if it's shaved, I'll give you some of this mighty tongue. Hey.
And if you're not having an adverse reaction, and if you can afford the maintenance that frequently shaving your lady parts require, go bald down there if it makes you feel good. And if you prefer to keep your body as nature intended, more power to you. Maybe the new generation will see it differently. I believe they already think being hairy is sexy, being au naturel is the way to go. But as a 34-year-old and as a Brazilian, it's hard for me to think this looks good. It's like, it's ingrained in my brain. I'm not gonna go out of my way to let the bushy people know how I feel, like Butterfield did. That Australian comedian has no class. I think both sides need to, respect each other. You don't agree with body hair removal? Great, then don't date those with a hairless body. You think hairy armpits and vulvas are disgusting? Fair enough, then don't date bushy people. Simple. Like, you don't need to be attacking each other. And it's important for me to reiterate that you need to find a partner that accepts you for who you are and how you want to present your body. Don't let partner pressure dictate how you groom down there. So, do you prefer to bush or not to bush? This video is probably gonna have limited monetization because Mama YouTube doesn't like when I talk about lady parts. So do me a solid and help this video and help this channel grow by liking, leaving a comment, sharing the video, with your friends there, maybe having a debate, maybe they want to try, shaving their parts. I hope this video can help. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content that I do here on this channel. I hope you have a lovely day ahead of you, and now you can click on this video over here to keep watching more of me.